kind of on a
Yeah,
limited
and
schedule.
first of all, thank you for the change in.
Oh, there's no worries on that at all.
And probably like till about 3:15.
Okay, all right, so we're gonna have to go kind of faster. First off, thanks for coming in. What I'm hoping to do here is to fill in some holes maybe from, I've seen it in a number of forums this week, and so fill in some holes that I don't quite understand on that. First off, you've talked in your, on this dump, so to speak, of these forums about bringing residents and businesses and customers to Springfield. What do you mean by customers? In the context of city government, what's a customer?
Customers for new businesses that we would have here.
Okay.
If we're attracting new businesses, we need customers for those businesses. We attract the businesses based on the strengths that the city of Springfield has. And then we would attract customers based on not only those strengths of Springfield, but also what we have culturally and business-wise for what we've attracted here.
Okay, great. And you've talked about the pilot payment. You'd like to wean the city off CWP pilot payments, which I now understand is a little more than $8 million a year.
8.5.
8.5. Okay. You haven't
Currently
said
in this new budget.
In the new budget, from what I've seen, one way that you've talked about doing is doing what happened at the county, where you have a voluntary severance plan. A, do you have anything beyond that voluntary severance plan? B, how long, give a timetable, how long does weaning take? Are we talking about 4 years, 40 years, 2 weeks?
And that's a fair question.
Yeah.
Certainly, we don't want to, shock the system to an immediate reversal on $8.5 million. I think it's important to gradually have that happen, whether it's over a 4-year time frame or a 5-year time frame. Whatever we can, work with the council to accomplish that's going to be fiscally prudent, as well as moving forward in a responsible manner, so that we can shore up the utilities, so it can have utility rates continue to be low, and still provide the services that we need from the corporate side of the budget.
Okay, great. You've talked about Wi-Fi zones. I want to make sure that I'm clear on that. My assumption is that's free Wi-Fi. Is that correct? Okay. All right. And that would be downtown? Would it be anywhere other than downtown?
If we can do a public-private partnership with a provider for that service, it would be whatever we can begin to accommodate with that public-private partner. So if it would be beyond the downtown area, if we could include, if we could even provide, once we have the chance to finish the 11th Street corridor, and then, perhaps have that, travel to the educational hub of the city, that might also be a potential process, but definitely beginning with the downtown area.
You're the county auditor. When you look at the statutory duties of the county auditor, they're not particularly expansive. You have a staff of 2. Explain to me why that you believe that you deserve the credit for doing some of these initiatives that you've talked about, that you've done in the county. The workman's compensation, I think, is one of those. I think the voluntary severance plan you've taken some credit for. Why do you deserve the credit when you aren't on the county board? You don't have a vote on the county board, and you're not the.
I'm not a big fan of assigning the word credit to it. One of my heartfelt, that I take to heart sayings is, there's no limit to what can be accomplished if one doesn't mind who gets the credit.
Okay.
However, the voluntary severance plan was an initiative that was had its genesis in my office, in what we worked to think outside of the box, and to establish as a way to begin to proactively address what we were seeing as what's going to be an issue with revenue, with revenue generation for the county. So if indeed we were to say I was taking credit for it, it was because we initiated it. It was our office that came up with the plan and enacted the plan through the county board. We, in concert with the county administrator at the time, helped get it enacted, and then administered it through the auditor's office. So it had its genesis in the auditor's office, obviously had to be approved by the county board, and then was enacted and executed by the auditor's office. Now, the Workplace Safety Board, again, an idea that I had the opportunity to humbly offer. It was an initiative of my efforts, my office, and so we, crafted that with not only the team members that I have in my office, but the team members of the county administrator's office and human resources, and got it approved by the county board, and then administered, executed by the auditor's office. So, without using the word credit,
Okay.
those were birthed in the auditor's office and enacted with the county board, and then administered by the auditor's office.
All right. Great. Let me talk a little bit. You put up forth a transparency plan here. I've read that. The county board, are you aware that they sometimes have a quorum of the board meeting of Republican members without the meetings being noticed? They say that they're not discussing official business, rather they're talking about politics. That's what Andy Van Meter has told me. Are you aware that those meetings have occurred?
No.
Okay. All right.
But any meetings that I have officially been involved with, whether it's the workplace safety board meetings, the self-funded health insurance board of managers meetings, even prior to official action, we have been very upfront in the agendas of those meetings and being very open and welcome to anybody who wanted to be visiting those meetings.
Okay.
And I have been on the forefront of transparency and openness by having those minutes on the auditor's office website. And I've also been very open and transparent from a personal standpoint. And you know this, Bruce, and released my family's personal tax returns when I've had an opportunity to be a candidate for county auditor, and when I've had an opportunity now to be a candidate for mayor in 11 and 15. And the reason for that is, and really kind of pioneering that concept before we had the issue with Rita Crundwell, the infamous young lady in Dixon, Illinois,
Correct.
Who was able to, as the city's controller, siphon away over $50 million to the tune of having a $2 million motorhome, $2 million with an M motorhome.
Horses are expensive.
And horses. And so if there was openness and transparency on her part, releasing her personal tax returns, perhaps citizens of Dixon, Illinois would have said, well, now, hold on, how are you able to accommodate all of these luxuries that you have? So that's why I feel it's important that I am open and transparent from a personal standpoint, so that people who are placing their trust, their vote in me as their potential mayor, that they can assure that there's not going to be any issues that will be embarrassing to them, the city, and to me by virtue of finances.
Put yourself in the mayor's seat a couple years ago when Shredgate happens. How would you have handled that?
Initially, you immediately inform the public.
Okay.
And be as upfront and open about what you knew. Tell the council immediately everything, and aggressively work to get to the bottom of what happened, but always with the concept of keeping the public informed as you go, so that you work to maintain the trust that could be jeopardized as a result of it.
Would you have fired anybody, and if so, when and whom?
Well, firing comes from having all the facts. Before you engage in any actions that are of a disciplinary nature, you must be completely assured of the responsibility for those actions that you're firing is in order. You have to be absolutely I's dotted and T's crossed before you do any kind of official action like firing or dismissal. But definitely, we would have done that because that helps assure the public that no matter how perceived one is as a high-level official, no one is above the law.
Okay. The scandal broke in early May, I believe. Heads began rolling in July. Was that an appropriate time frame? I mean, can you say whether it would have taken you less time, more time, about the same amount of time?
Who knows?
Okay. Same question with Treegate. You recall Treegate? Okay. Did the city handle that properly? And if not, where did it fall down?
I don't exactly recall the exact administration or the response, but once you learn about that, again, you have to inform the council and the public of the situation, and then officially move forward to learn all the facts.
Okay.
So that indeed any action that's taken is warranted by having knowledge of all the facts involved.
Okay. If memory serves, you have not said that you're going to clean house when you win, and if you win the election, you're going to in the police department, other departments, you would consider the incumbents before reaching a decision. Is that correct?
Everything is open. There's
Okay.
there's been no decisions made of who will stay or who will go.
Okay.
It's important to assess the needs and the talents,
Mhm.
and I am certainly open to individuals perhaps continuing on the team, but perhaps in a different seat.
Okay.
I mean, you have to be aware of talent first, qualifications, and then where they might jointly see their talents being used, and strategically how you would see the need for those talents to be used. So everything is open at this time.
Okay. Is there any particular department in the corporate side, leave CWLP alone for a second, is there any particular department that you are particularly concerned about in the city?
I wouldn't say concerned,
Okay.
but I would say that a priority focus will be economic development.
Okay.
Indeed, it has to be in order to be able to lead the process of bringing more jobs and opportunities and businesses to the city of Springfield. And that economic development department would be the priority because, and along with the Chamber of Commerce, we have to be on an equal playing field with the Chamber of Commerce. We can't let egos get in the way. We can't say that, well, the structure is chamber over city or city over chamber, and the same with the school district. As we work to attract new elements to the city of Springfield that'll provide job opportunities, we can't worry about who's getting the credit. We have to make sure that the chamber, the school district, and that the city are working in partnership to be attractive to bringing those new jobs here.
What's the city doing well right now? Is there something that it's doing particularly well that you think needs to be continued?
There's financially, the team and the mayor have worked hard to generate fiscal responsibility and fiscal discipline, and that's a difficult. It's leadership that is important to make sure that taxpayer dollars are being spent well. I mean, we've had to make some hard decisions in the county to maintain that culture of fiscal responsibility that we've generated and perpetuated. Some years in county government, we've worked together to sometimes do across the board 5%, and then worked proactively toward doing that and collaboratively with department heads to make sure that those have been administered well. But sometimes that takes some leadership, and that's what has been done well in the city of Springfield. And I think the police department has been very forward-thinking in building relationships. And the fire department has been very good in delivering its services. So those would be some of the departments that I believe have served well.
Do you have a stance on body cameras? If so, what is it?
I believe we need to make sure that we have all the legal parameters in place for having body cameras. I think they are an important tool for maintaining that trust between citizens and our police force members. And so my stance would be, as soon as we can get all of the questions answered from the state level on how long we maintain video, how long how much an officer needs to have the camera turned on, rather than driving full force into purchases that might need to be changed later. Before we start investing dollars in those, let's make sure all of the legal parameters are in place that we'll have to accommodate. But definitely, we will need those as important tools in the toolbox for maintaining that trust. Let's make sure we've got all of the questions answered that are going to need to be answered before we may have to then purchase a whole new set of cameras.
Okay. In 2010, July of 2010, the State Journal Register ran a story about your absence from your office while you were head of Kiwanis International. I believe 29 days missed from the first half of that year. You think you'd said something?
Well, I think that was the full year.
Oh, the full year? Okay. All right. How many days did you miss, and should anybody be concerned about that?
Well, I'm trying to recall what exact was it, whether that was the fiscal year or the full year, but those were vacation days.
Okay.
And we don't officially have vacation days or sick days, but it's the equivalent of the amount of days that would have been afforded to me.
Okay.
And a lot of those, whether it was be considered sick, personal, or vacation time, those would equal the amount of time that would have been afforded to me. Okay. I think it's important to note that it's not like that time was spent away playing golf. Okay. Or vacationing on a beach. Those were opportunities to develop some leadership skills while I was serving in the role. Those were opportunities to advance a cause for service for those clubs that I was working with to better their communities. Okay. And so I was learning and bringing back some of those skills to be able to provide service either as county auditor or even here outside of the official roles that I serve in the community. Okay. So I believe that those were productive service opportunities as well as investments in my own ability to make a positive impact.
Are you doing any polling, or is anybody doing any polling on your behalf? Have you seen any polling numbers?
I have not seen any numbers.
Okay, great. Do you plan on doing any?
Well, we'll have to do some as we get closer so that we know whether we have to adjust.
Okay. What does your gut tell you where you're at in terms of ahead, behind, even, and what did the primary results tell you, if anything?
Well, we are hearing very positive things. Okay. People tell us that our message is resonating when we talk about bringing new jobs and opportunities, and how we're talking about bringing our county auditor's sense of fiscal discipline to the role. When we talk about openness and transparency, I've heard a lot of people tell me that they appreciate my having released my family's personal tax returns for 5 years. They say that that's rarely been done, and they appreciate that sense of honesty. And so I believe that if not even, we're slightly ahead, because we've talked about things that have gone into an area that's meaningful to people, because Springfield needs to move forward. We are, I believe, compared to our Central Illinois city competitors, that would be Bloomington Normal and Champaign-Urbana, that we are we're struggling in that regard to be a community that's needs to flex our economic development muscles, which may have atrophied over the last century because we've grown accustomed to state government being our safety net.
Okay. Right. How much money is this going to take? And I'm bad at math, but I took a look at the State Board of Elections, and ballpark, it looked to me like about 120 or so. I don't know if that's right or not.
Probably.
Okay.
Considering, though, previous races had been in the $350,000 range, I think we're being relatively prudent.
You're showing fiscal discipline.
Yeah. Previous races had, Mayor Davlin had hundreds of thousands of dollars amassed and spent in his 03 race. Even in 1995, there was expensive races for mayor in the several $100,000 range. So I believe we have worked to be as prudent as possible. And of course, we have been able to take advantage of social media that would normally have perhaps been an expense.
You don't need those pesky newspaper ads anymore.
Well, I wouldn't describe them as pesky, but they are expensive.
Sure. Okay. All right. And how much do you think it's going to cost at the end of the day? Is it going to be 200, more than 200? I mean, when all is said and done?
When all is said and done, 180 to 200.
Okay, great. And The question was asked the other day, I'll ask it again, forgive me, about negative campaigning. Langfelder said no, you said you prefer to think of it as providing information about candidates. I saw that you've got the services of in-kind from HOTUS and consultants, and I looked them up, and they actually won some award a couple of years ago for the best negative ad. What can we expect here? I mean, in terms of the tenor of the ads in the final stretch here?
I think it would be informational. Negative is in the eye of the beholder. I mean, it's you know, we have to be comparative, and you know, negative is I don't believe is the right word. It's informative.
Okay. How did you know so much about A Christmas Carol? I mean, I was very, very impressed at your ability to quote that. I mean, how did you learn that?
It's one of my favorite novels.
Okay.
And I would say ever since I was in grade school, I've been, I love the tale of it because it's a turnaround, it's redemption, it's hope. When I was a kid, it was obviously a little frightening, ghost story kind of a thing.
Sure.
But I've enjoyed it and loved it for the message that it has, and I like to use it in reference, particularly the quote that I used about mankind. That's, to me, speaks about us as humans. When indeed Marley's ghost says, and you don't even have to record this.
Or you can stand up and act it out.
No, because I get so excited about it because it's not only just meaningful, but it's so well written. Because when Dickens writes it, because you know, Scrooge says, you know, well, Jacob, you were such a great man of business, and that's when, you know, Marley's ghost, you know, becomes infuriated. And my favorite line, as I said the other night, is, the dealings of my trade were but a drop of water in the comprehensive ocean of my business, because mankind is our business. And I get shivers when I think of it now. I mean, it's just crucial that the human nature, you know, whether you're serving as a reporter, or whether you're serving as a jewelry salesperson, or whether you're a car salesman or an elected official, it's all about human interaction. And as a person who's been involved, like with Key Club and Kiwanis, I mean, these are aspects of my life that perhaps don't get a lot of the attention that it might would otherwise be another side of what I am part of. But I mean, I've had a chance to see needs and try to address them here locally and globally, and these are things that I feel compelled to immerse myself in to do something about. If it's because of A Christmas Carol, or because of what I've seen, or whether it's my involvement in Key Club and helping young people, or what I've had a chance to be involved with, I mean, I just feel it. And the mankind thing about human nature is why I feel a leadership role is about human nature. And it's about understanding and empathizing. By the way, Lincoln was a great leader for empathy. I mean, he knew what his opponents and his friends, you know, needed in terms of what their human nature situation was. And that's how, as a leader, you work together, understanding where that person's coming from, and you move together toward what you need to accomplish. For example, in the city council, a mayor needs to know what an alderman wants out of their service, so that they can look in a positive light to their constituents, that they're serving their constituents well. So a mayor needs to understand where they're coming from, help them achieve their goal, and help them achieve their constituents' goals, so that together you can move the city forward. But it's that human nature that's really kind of embodied in that novel, A Christmas Carol, that Dickens speaks to us through, that I get excited about, which is, as you can tell, is
So if I go back and look at old high school yearbooks, I'm not going to see a picture of you in a nightshirt, and you were leading this in the high school play. Okay.
No.
It was very well done.
Well, again, the quote means a lot.
Okay, fair enough. I want to ask you about employment. One thing that Mayor Houston takes credit for, or says is a good thing that he's done, is he's reduced headcount at City Hall. Can you maintain those numbers, A, and B, what about political hires? I mean, there's always been a suspicion or talked about in the city of Springfield that it's not your qualifications necessarily, it's who you know. Can you talk about those two things, please?
Well, I'm a fan of the book Good to Great by Jim Collins.
Okay.
And the theory presented, the main theory in that book is about getting the right people in the right seats in the bus.
Okay.
And so we have to find individuals who have the talent and the ability to serve well. And if you're also studying leadership styles, Walt Disney is a great study in that regard, as well as Abraham Lincoln. They brought people in for their talent and then helped them use that talent to whatever the necessary role was. You get the right people in the right seats in the bus. And so that's how I believe we need to operate city government. Now, when it comes to headcount, which is the first part of your question, credit to reducing the headcount because I believe it had ballooned too far. And credit to, or kudos to the council for capping that headcount at 1,500. I think that was a good move. Because you never know if a mayor, would ever again go off the reservation in terms of just hiring for the sake of. And
sorry, go on.
Okay.
It just occurred to me earlier. You said you don't like using the word credit.
Right.
That's
That's
we're
why I
talking
changed.
about bills.
Okay.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay.
I lost my thought.
You said you were talking about if the mayor was ever again to go off the reservation in terms of headcount, and you were talking
Right.
about the 1,500 employee cap
Right.
instituted by the city council.
And that was positive. And in the county government, I mean, we're at a lower head count. Even after we had merged with the Springfield Public Health Department, where we had individuals come over that kind of brought our numbers up. Even since that point, we're down approximately 100 individuals in county government. And that's all a good thing for keeping tax rates low and being efficient in how we deliver either city services or county services. That's I think it's an important element because when your rates are low, then you are additionally attractive for more businesses to look at you, not only from an attractiveness level for neighborhoods, safety, and education. Those are the three things that make a city an attractive place to do business and to live and raise a family. But you also have to be concerned that you're not going to be outpriced by other central Illinois communities that might equal educational success and attractiveness of neighborhoods and safety.
Sure. One area of employment that went down in the county specifically was the number of sheriff's deputies, and however, the crime rate, there was no corresponding increase in the crime rate. With that in mind, with the police department, is the police department of the city the right size? Is it too big or too small in terms of numbers of sworn officers?
And I believe that together with the team, we'll investigate that to see if some additional resources can be afforded to the police department. Again, we do that to be able to be attractive from the safety standpoint. And if we need to achieve that goal by additional person power resources on the street, then that's what we need to do.
We're just about out of time, but I have one final question. You talked about a diversity director or coordinator the other day at the library. Can you expand on exactly what the duties of that person would be?
That person will help us ensure that we are, as welcoming and open to individuals of all races and colors, creeds, within city government and within the city of Springfield. We need to help raise that awareness level. A diversity director can be responsible for initiating some efforts that would be of minimal cost to help new businesses see the need for, reflecting the community and helping them with some policies and procedures that would help us elevate that awareness level.
Okay. I know you're in a tight time frame. I'm out of questions at this point. I have a zillion more. You don't have 2 hours to sit here.
Sure. Well, I'm enjoying it.
Okay.
As long as you don't mind me going off on Charles Dickens.
No, that's fine. Is there something you haven't been asked in the course of this campaign that somebody should be asking you? And if so, what's your answer?
Well, let's talk a little more about Kiwanis International.
Okay.
I had a chance to serve as president of Kiwanis International. It's a global service organization of about 600,000 volunteer members in over 80 countries. And I learned about, again, the human nature of leadership, because the individuals that I had a chance to lead were some, as I like to say, didn't even speak English. And we together, as a leadership team, helped put a new service project together for the organization as a whole. And that service project was to work with UNICEF to raise $110 million to eliminate maternal and neonatal tetanus from the face of the earth. And if you do have a chance to look at our website, kiwanis.org, you'll see our progress toward raising dollars to get into countries that still are afflicted with tetanus. You and I have no problems with that. We step on a rusty nail. We're either already vaccinated, but
Hopefully.
Sure. But in many countries, moms or women of childbearing age aren't vaccinated, and so then when they deliver their babies, sometimes the instruments used aren't sterilized, and therefore the tetanus spores that are in the air all around us get trapped onto those unsterile instruments. And so when those instruments are used in the birthing process, the infant contracts tetanus, and the mother will contract tetanus. But that infant that contracts the tetanus definitely will die in a period of 7 to 8 days. But that death process is excruciatingly painful for the infant because their sensory nerves are heightened, and so you can't hold the child to comfort it. You can't sing to the child to comfort it. It's sensitive to light, so that death is extremely painful. And because tetanus vaccines are available, it's unwarranted. So the project that we're engaged in right now, that I had a chance to offer and work with other elements of Kiwanis leadership around the world as the president of the organization, moved that project onto the forefront, got it approved to be our worldwide service project, and then announced it at the convention where we had our annual gathering for our Kiwanis Club members
In
around
2010,
the world.
is that correct? Or?
2010.
Okay, right.
June of 2010.
Okay.
How do you spell that, Kiwanis?
Kiwanis. And Key Club is the high school organization of Kiwanis, and my daughter is currently the Key Club International president. And so as we finish up the Eliminate Maternal and Neonatal Tetanus project, Palazzolo had a chance to initiate it globally, and Palazzolo is now playing a role to complete the project globally. So it's kind of a neat little effort that we're a part of as a family. But Kiwanis is one of the 3 largest service organizations in the world, and to serve as its president was a humbling experience and a learning experience that will help provide some skills to service as mayor, because you have to understand that part of my understanding by virtue of this service is service and leadership, and how those two concepts work together to move a goal forward. And in this case, the goal is to improve the city of Springfield to be an attractive place for businesses, to be a welcoming place for young people and families, to move us forward, and to not be a city that's sleepy or mired in quicksand, with the perception that we're not as successful as our Central Illinois city competitors. But we just need to move beyond state government and be a great city like Austin or Madison or Indianapolis, to be a great city that just also happens to be the capital of Illinois.
Good enough. Thank you for your time, sir.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. Again, we can keep going if you want.
Oh, well, what else you got?
Okay, well, yeah.
What's our time?
It is
Mine.
3:20. It's up to you.
Let's go till 3:30.
Okay, that's fine. Like you've talked about the city council and being able to leadership skills by Lincoln, and I mean, it strikes me this the city council has often been more a team of rivals than folks all rowing in the same direction. How do you specifically get the city council on board and move forward? How challenging do you think that's going to be?
Well, it doesn't have to be challenging, because we have to, first of all, set the tone together. That it indeed is rowing in one direction. And I've been on the forefront and led the conversation about a potential retreat that after we've all had a chance to be elected, and then go through a unique, perhaps we can get an orientation for all of the new aldermen, as well as the new mayor and the new city treasurer and the new city clerk. There are many individuals at UIS who are qualified and able to administer a municipal orientation program.
Okay.
And we need to incorporate them into, obviously at no charge, and help them or allow them to help us become philosophically up to speed and in the book sense, so that then we can apply our experiences then to what that book sense provides. And then just kind of like a planning retreat from 9 a.m. to 12 on a Saturday morning.
Okay.
And just kind of, it'll be open.
Yeah, you understand there'll be
Has
folks
to be
watching
open.
it.
Has to be open.
Has to be open.
Could be boring.
Okay. Hopefully. Is this something with like a facilitator or something, or?
If not a facilitator, at least some brainstorming with some potential dot points of, okay, in the economic development arena, cast a vision.
Okay.
Where can you see the city of Springfield in 2019?
Okay.
And then throw some dot points up there on a flip chart.
Okay.
Or even on a screen.
Okay.
And so throw those up and then
Okay.
see what, then with, together with some other individuals that we bring
Yeah.
from UIS, then what are those dot points that we can achieve in year one that would lead to accomplishments in year two, and then year 3 and year 4.
Okay.
And so if you're all on the same team with that roadmap, with that strategy, then we're all into it. Because we've done it together. We've laid out that plan together. And then if new things come along, it certainly has to be flexible to address some needs, like say, food carts being within a restaurant's parameters.
Sure.
Then you handle those issues as they arise. But the overall big picture strategy is each ward fitting into that big picture strategy and how it moves forward.
Okay.
Is it a large task? Why, absolutely. I mean, it's a large city.
Yeah.
But you got to start somewhere.
Yeah.
And leadership is, casting that vision and bringing people together to see that big picture, then communicate that picture that you've established to the citizenry at large. Now, this just doesn't include the aldermen, because then you have to bring in other elements of the community for their buy-in as well. Social service agencies, the ministerial community, the ministerial alliance, obviously the chamber, and obviously the educational community, and any other municipal elements that will play a role in that effort. SMTD, the convention center. You cannot leave these elements out. It's all part of crafting a plan in concert with a city planner that can help us lay out the zoning and land use elements of the plan to achieve what we're hoping to achieve when we throw out these dot points on a flip chart or a screen, and then start leading in that direction. So it can be done. It doesn't have to be a haphazard relationship. It can be a focused, planned directional relationship.
I almost had a vision of you stand up. No, don't worry, they'll catch you. So the trust sort of thing.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Because that doesn't lend itself to specifics.
Okay, fair enough.
I mean, we've got to plan a roadmap. A roadmap doesn't involve, hokey little
Sure.
things. But I'm talking about, specific directions and dot points that are part of an action strategy that we can accomplish together.
We'll talk a little bit about downtown, and you talked about the Y block a couple times, and you're not sure, you have no shortage of ideas for that place. You're
Right.
talking about an incubator and residents and businesses and UIS teaching classes downtown and SIU bringing in perhaps a law clinic.
Green space.
Green space also, yes, thank you. What is the basis of your confidence that either SIU or UIS would establish a presence there, given that UIS did have a presence downtown, didn't work out so well before? SIU, same sort of question, what's in it for them to establish a law clinic up there?
We can't be closed to the new idea of it.
Okay.
We have to present, what your question is, what's my confidence?
Yeah, why are you confident that the UIS would say, yeah, sure, we'll try something that didn't work before?
But we've got to present the rationale and
Okay.
work together on realizing why it's beneficial for both elements, both UIS and the downtown community, and see if we can plan. And that's not going to happen overnight.
Sure.
I mean, it's got to be perhaps maybe a 12 to 15 month, researched initiative for the the return on investment, the cost benefit analysis, and then seeing it to realization. But you got to start, and you got to at least begin the conversation and throw out the ideas so that there's input and then mutual buy-in as you make progress toward either rejecting or enacting what you come together with.
Okay. Similar question, I think, for MacArthur Boulevard. There's been a TIF that's been established there. Hy-Vee's now there. Is it moving as quickly as it should in your view in terms of redeveloping that area? And I'd like to specifically address the Esquire Theater property. That's kind of the one that everybody talks about. What do you foresee happening there, and how can the city help that come to pass?
The city can help that come to pass by ensuring that we don't have a lot of regulatory roadblocks or burdens in the way. I mean, certainly we have to protect the taxpayer. Certainly we have to protect the citizens. But if we can, as a level of government, be a welcoming partner in a entrepreneur willing to take the risk and achieve their dream or goal with that, then rather than being a burden and a constant roadblock, we have to be helpful to help them be as efficient and as cost effective as possible toward achieving their dream, and coordinate and shepherd the process through city government. Sometimes a lot of regulatory aspects of city government come along long past when a developer has already done some things that make it costly to redo what the regulatory element wants to do. You've got to get everything out in front so that a developer hasn't made progress on something and then has to redo. So we've got to help by shepherding in a partner way with our hands up rather than a come down hard way.
Okay. With regard to the Bel Air, I think that most folks look at the MacArthur Park, or a lot of folks do, say, wow, that really worked. Why can't we do that everywhere? With that in mind, how do you continue what's been happening so far in terms of making some progress toward getting rid of some of these dilapidated properties?
We have to be consistent, and we have to be fair in how we administer, making sure that landowners are fair with their tenants. And once we start picking and choosing winners and losers, that's when we get into trouble.
Do you have to be tough?
Well, absolutely.
Okay.
I mean, you can't, but in concert with neighbors and neighborhood associations, and how you bring, elements of the city to the table with inspectors and police force and fire, and a neighborhood revitalization coordinator, which is a position that I'm advocating as well, to address these needs. But again, you have to be fair, and you have to be consistent.
Okay. You've talked about three positions, at least, that I can think of: the neighborhood coordinator, the diversity director, and the planner/implementer. You've talked about taking money that's currently going to the inspector generals to at least fund the city planner.
If the council will accommodate.
If the council will accommodate. Right now, I believe there's something less than $100,000 per year, but the long term is $200,000 to $300,000. End of the day, are you confident there's going to be enough money in the city budget to pay for those three positions?
And I would say that finding the dollars for that, we would repurpose for the neighborhood development director and the diversity director. So there would be existing positions that might find themselves with some new responsibilities. Again, open to having talent that's already there engaged in in new responsibilities.
Doing more with the same amount of resources?
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. And with the city planner, again, investment in what those positions can result in, and what can those positions result in. From the diversity director standpoint, a recognition that Springfield, Illinois is a community that abhors and detests any kind of racist attitudes, and that brings a welcoming sense. A city planner to ensure that the land use and zoning is the most effective possible to help developers realize their dreams for residential or commercial properties. And the a neighborhood revitalization coordinator to raise the attractiveness level of neighborhoods, so that when a new business is looking at coming to the city of Springfield, that their potential employees will be in a community that has a neighborhood that is attractive, welcoming, and open. And again, that raises our ability to market Springfield as a great place to live, to work, to generate a business, to be a part of the fabric of what we offer here in the city of Springfield.
You set a goal of 124,000 population of Springfield by the time you leave the mayor's office, if in fact you are elected mayor. Do you have a similar goal for minority hiring within the city government during that time span?
I think we'll need to work with the diversity director to make sure that that's a part of what we do to reflect the community.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Paul. I really appreciate you going
My
over.
pleasure. My pleasure.
All right.
I've enjoyed it.
You're not doing anything this weekend, are you?
Knocking and walking. Knocking and walking. Nice to meet you, sir.
You too.
You bet. I hope that they hire you full time.
I hope they hire me full time.
Oh, well, I won't ask the specifics. Thank you again.